History is in the club, and so are the Incas. This video will explain some of the key facts that pertain to the Incas and this notes packet that you did. I'm going to try to keep the video short, so if you need to fill in a lot on your notes, you may need to pause the video so that you're able to do that. So the first thing I want to point out is that with the second bullet here, what happened in 1438, the Aztecs are around the same general time period, but the Aztecs and the Incas didn't interact with each other. The Aztecs are in what is today Mexico, and the Inca are in what is today Peru, Chile, and other countries in South America. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. I just definitely know Peru. All right, so Cusco is the capital, and something that I haven't explained yet is that the Inca Empire was a long empire north to south, 2,500 miles, and that's the equivalent of Boston to Salt Lake City. So it was a very long empire north to south, which is why it had its extensive road system, which is on the next page. Next up, there's some info on the Sapa Inca. Just like the Aztecs, the Inca had one ruler for the whole civilization. Sapa Inca is not a specific person's name, it is the title of the emperor. So there was more than one Sapa Inca in the history of the Inca. So I've listed some of the important facts, government and religious leader, as well as the other facts I have listed there. The Koya was his wife, his primary wife, because he could have more than one wife. That is the title of his wife, his number one wife. Just like we call the president's wife the first lady. Okay, so ignore Unit 4 start page because I am making this video in 2017. This is not Unit 4 this school year, but let's see. We have why trade is not that important. So I noticed on some people's notes, they didn't have this right, or they were half right, or had half the fact. Anyway, it has to do with the Sapa Inca owning everything in the empire, and I've listed some specific things there. So there was no need to have personal property because you're not going to trade or barter because you don't really have stuff. It's all technically the Sapa Incas. So imagine, some of your personal property that you have, your phone. I don't know if anyone still has iPods. I do, but other personal property, books, if you like to read, or anything that you own, you wouldn't have that in the Inca. There'd be no point because the Sapa Inca owned everything. Obviously, they didn't have iPods when the Inca were around, but no personal property, no items that people would own. Okay, they had a labor tax. I highlighted that. That helped the empire to get done what the work it needed to survive and make it. Especially men. That last fact has to do with men and work that they owed the empire. So press pause if you missed something on this page. If not, flip it on to page 2. So efficient government of the Inca. The first two facts deal with the nobles. The last fact is the most important in this section for our purposes in 2017. You should have the word Quipu written down, Q-U-I-P-U, and I'll show you some pictures in a second, but Quipus allowed the Inca to keep track of information, but it was not a writing system. It was strings and knots, just like this. So the first drawing shows you how there's place value. The first row of knots, hundreds, second row, tens, last row, ones. And the different strings would be counting different things. So maybe the 132 is how many soldiers fought in a battle. Maybe 417 was how many people were living in a specific town, things like that. So the picture below the drawing is a picture of a real quipu. And you can see there's different colors of the strings, and that's faded, but you get the point. Different strings would keep track of different statistics and numbers. So that was one way, that was something unique about the Inca, the quipu, and it shows that they were advanced because they thought to keep track of statistics and other numerical information. They had this big empire, so they had to unite it, and that's number 3. The road system is really important and a big part of the Inca Empire. So you have how long it was. The empire had 10 million people, so that was a lot of people to unite. You saw the video with the grass suspension bridges and how they were made. So that was an impressive advanced part of the Inca because they were able to make those bridges out of grass. That's something only relevant to the Inca. Anyway, another big deal about the road system, and the videos showed this. They went through the mountains, and it's really hard to run in the mountains. But the Inca developed lungs and legs that could deal with these conditions. Also, the way that the roads worked is that it was basically telephone meets a relay race. So one person would hear the message and they would have to memorize it, and they might have a quipu with statistics of something they have to carry with them, and they run their leg of the road system. That was a few miles, I think. Doesn't matter. The exact number, they would run their segment, then they would meet up with the next runner. They would tell them the message, hand off the quipu if needed, and then that runner would go off and run. So they could cover up to 250 miles a day. And that's the equivalent of Boston to New York City. And it was done by a bunch of different runners, not just one person, but still, that's pretty efficient for just running. So that's how it was telephone meets, I already wrote it down here. Telephone meets a relay race. All right. Number 5, who used it? What was the point? First bullet, there was stations built, periodically throughout the road system where people would stop and meet up with the next person. If you were a regular old person, you could not use the roads. It was only for the relay runners and warriors and nobles, and probably the Sapa Inca. Cusco, all the roads went through the capital of Cusco. If you're good with page 2, let's move on to page 3. Quipus, one more time, page 3. So there's a big temple of the sun in Cusco that the sun god was the main god for the Inca. Aylus were like towns, like Westford and Littleton would be the equivalent of an Inca Aylu. And there were leaders in the Aylus, and sometimes government officials arranged marriages so that everyone was married by a certain age. But it's not like the Aztec who had an actual matchmaker. It's not exactly like that. Okay, terraces are important for the Inca. It shows how they were resourceful because of the mountains. So the 2 bullets of facts tell you the benefits to terraces because they needed farmland in the mountains. Inca farmers. So Inca farmers worked for the community, worked for the emperor, so that's where their harvest went. The government would take each harvest. Some of it would go to specific people, like warriors or the elderly, and the rest was stored in case of a famine. So that was smart thinking of the Inca to prepare for possible famine. This next section talks about Inca achievements in metalwork and weaving. Okay? So you might want to write what I wrote in red to the side. Same with Inca being resourceful up above. I'm going to move on. If it's going too fast, press that pause button. The Inca were also known for their stonework, and you can see here the bricks are the edges are very straight, and that's something else the Inca are known for. Precisely carved bricks. All right, we're on the last page. Here we go. More Inca achievements. Surgery on the human skull. Knocking a patient out with a drug to make them unconscious before surgery. So same that technique, cleaning an area being operated on and a drug to make a patient unconscious. Those medical techniques, practices. Oh, it's bedtime, not history time, but I made it history time again. Okay, they didn't call them antiseptics and anesthesia when it was Inca times, but it's the equivalent of what is done today in modern times with medicine. Okay, and they mummified the dead. So they had some medical advances and practices that they're known for. Next, moving on, religion, polytheistic, many gods connected to nature, just like the Aztec and the Maya. They had offerings and a religious festival each month with fun stuff, ceremonies, sports, games. Wish I could have experienced one. Anyway, that is something only the Inca did. Okay. Inti, the sun god. Ignore page 51. That's from another year. Inti is the main god. That's the name of the sun god is Inti, I-N-T-I. So he had people that served him, the chosen women. They were chosen when they were 8 or 10 years old to go to the capital and learn how to make ritual food and drink, clothes, and everything I have listed in the second bullet. This is something only the Inca did. Some, when they were done with their training, around 15 or so, served Inti or were married nobles or were in the capital helping the government. Lastly, we have the Civil War. In 1525, the emperor dies. The sons battle over who's going to be emperor. That would be Atahualpa and his brother. And this week in the empire, the Spanish came. Pizarro did his damage on the Inca, and they were conquered in 1532. So, if you missed something, you can rewind, go get what you need, and I think that's it for today. So, that's all, students, and remember, narwhals are real.